This video is brought to you by Squarespace. If you're a blogger, artist, or merchant in need of an online presence, Squarespace has all the website building, marketing, and analytics tools you'll need to build a beautiful website and grow your brand. Hello there. Hi, Editing Kira here. I'm sorry the quality in this video is awful. I filmed this before I got my new camera lens, so sorry, it sucks. But most of this video is a speed paint anyway, so at least it doesn't last that long. A couple of weeks ago, I was art blocked and generally unmotivated, so I needed a little help to get all of my inspirational juices flowing. So I asked you guys to send me whatever random aesthetic images that you wanted to, and I was going to use those as prompts for character designs. Well, I did that, and I'll tell you what, it is some of the most fun that I've had on a character design video ever. It just allowed me to come up with so many new ideas that I wouldn't normally think of, and the response from you guys was overwhelmingly positive. So what's up? This is a series now. So I once again asked all of you to send me even more random aesthetic images, and you did not disappoint. I have so many DMs, message requests, just everything on Instagram. So let's have a look at all of the weird nonsense that you guys had to send me this week. Hi and welcome to my Instagram DMs. Okay, so this week we're just gonna go straight into my message requests because there are a lot of them. Let's see what Bria Truesdale has to send. Heavenly strawberries. Oh! Okay, so strawberries are my favorite fruit and I would like to inhale all of these. I'm just gonna save this for like my own purposes. Ooh, tentacles. Oh, that's really cool. Whoa. I love the idea of like space and the ocean being combined into one because I'm basically deathly afraid of both, which is why they intrigue me so much. Thank you, Bria Truesdale. Embarrassment sent some stuff. This is all so weird. I love it. Especially like this one. And I don't know what that says about me as a person. I might need to work on that. This is actually saved on my Pinterest already, and I really want to try something like this. It would take me forever, and it wouldn't be good, but like, this is insane. Florence Bono, which is Bono? I'm sorry. Aw, thank you. I really like the house in the bottom right corner here. It's pretty sick. I love this. This is so spooky. They have so much atmosphere to them. I love these. Oh, this is so pretty. Oh, it's so celestial. I love these whales. I don't know why, but it kind of reminds me of like Piltover from Arcane. I'm just gonna take this moment to remind you all that I am not good at pronouncing things, and any name that I say is probably wrong. I apologize in advance. Okay, now that's just not fair. You guys are really just trying to make me hungry at this point. Several people have just sent me like photos of cows being wholesome, and I greatly appreciate it. Let's see what Rosemary has to say. I know that's probably not supposed to be a mouth, but he looks like he's got a little face. Aw, friend energy. And a bobbit worm. Yep, don't like that. But I do like it for character designs. Thank you, Rosemary. Oh, it's the lasagna boy. Oh, this is so pretty. Oh, now that's maybe a little less pretty. I'm about to get age restricted by YouTube. Oh gosh darn it, you guys are making me hungry now. That looks so good. I love some good mushroom decor. Oh, this is fabulous. So is this. All right, let's do one more. See if I can find a weird one. How would I even make this into a character? Oh no, I just figured out how. And it's not good. Colleen Pierce. Something about this is both so ominous and so funny at the same time. What if your sleep paralysis demon was just a pile of owls? Thank you, Colleen. That's just fabulous stuff. All right, I would say that I have some pretty good material, so I'm gonna get right into designing. But first, you know, I think some of you said that you had a difficult time seeing the reveals of the final designs last week because it was a little too fast, and I wish that I knew of a place where I could show off still images of those final character designs. Oh wait, I do. This video sponsor Squarespace. Now, darling, Squarespace offers dozens of professional and customizable website and portfolio templates that give you the freedom to brand yourself exactly how you want. Do you want to display your weird clown characters front and center for every client to see? No problem. With automatic image scaling, you just drop that sucker in and it's beautifully spaced and arranged, no questions asked. But the customization doesn't end there. Squarespace gives you endless control over text, colors, and website pages, and gives you countless design options with their page blocks. You want to showcase your entire Instagram gallery alongside your portfolio? With social blocks, you can link your Squarespace site to your various social media accounts and display recent social media posts on your Squarespace site. And all of that is without me even mentioning their fantastic e-commerce platform, which can be linked seamlessly to your portfolio so that buyer's resistance is at an all-time low. And to make things even easier on yourself, you can even link it to a print-on-demand service like the one I use for an even more hands-off selling experience. So if you want to proudly display your random character designs for all the world to see, head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/pricklyalpaca to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring what is quickly becoming my favorite video to do. Now let's get started. These are the references that I ended up going for this week. I'm sorry not many from the intro made it in, but I will definitely do some of those later on. These are submitted by Pixel Fairy Wandering Off, Red Kite Beth, Yami, their actual username is on screen, The Lonely Tree in the Forest, Kai Carls, Lion Tortoise 97, and Owama1. Once again, I am so sorry. Alright, we're starting out with an indulgent one. This very pastel looking castle in the clouds with a moon peeking through the window. Listen, I went very out of my comfort zone last time, so I am beginning this time well within my comfort zone. Actually, I'm doing two this time. I'm pairing this with a different submission because I thought it was just perfect, so I'm also pairing it with that axe from Japan in the 14th century. Together, I thought these would be perfect for a celestial magical girl. Akira classic, to be sure. So the goal with this one was basically to make her look as flowy and princessy as possible while also decking her out head to toe in armor to sort of allude to all of the trim on the castle. This proved to be a little bit challenging because I was trying to make her outfit look flowy like clouds, but also give it some kind of structure there. Like, this is a physical dress, it's not just magic wisping around her. And mixing that with armor was also another challenge on top of that. Initially, I was like, I'm just gonna design a dress that has some armor on top of it, and it's gonna be like a full gown. But then I got the idea to give her some really cool greaves, and I didn't want to cover them up with a big long dress, so I ended up kind of compromising, and I did that on several places with this actually. The first big compromise came in the form of like a big butt skirt instead of like a full-length gown. It's still full length, it's just a butt skirt, which ended up making this design a good bit sexier than I initially envisioned, but it actually kind of works with the reference. Stay with me here, it's wildly impractical, but I ended up putting her in a leotard, and that sort of mirrors the two giant arches in the reference picture. Like, the arches parallel her hips and the leotard. Again, sexier than I initially was planning on, but I think it looks pretty nice. Something else I struggled with and changed a lot was her hair. At first I had it in sort of a completely different style, and I don't even really remember what it was. I was trying to essentially go for the same thing, but I ended up redrawing it several times so that I could really get that like wispy, cloudy curl in there, and in the end I really like how it turned out. I think it definitely sells the like gracefulness of the reference, and I also ended up putting that sort of cloud motif in the skirt. I just wanted it to look light and fluffy and graceful. I know I talk about them way too much, but kind of the way sulky dresses look, I find that sort of flouncy, flowy material to be really difficult to draw and capture, at least for me. So I do think my little bits of cloud rendering did help to sell that like flowy feeling. The armor was also a little bit tricky because I draw so much armor that's sort of like this vaguely like ornate rococo floral motif type armor. I love it, but I did want it to try to actually get the shapes from the reference as much as possible. And then I also tried to bring in some curves and some hearts in there sometimes to try to tie it into the axe. I think I was mostly successful, but it is very messy. Drawing these kinds of patterns and intricate designs is something that I'm really trying to work on right now. It's one of the reasons why I like this series, because it's kind of forcing me to actually do that. In the past, a lot of times I think I've tried to cheat and kind of just try to vaguely make it look like there's something here and just make it really painterly and messy, which doesn't really fly up to a certain point. Here I was really trying to give it some flow and structure and be like, how would this look in three-dimensional space? You know, that thing that illustrators are supposed to do. I'm ragging on myself a little bit, but I'm mostly satisfied with how it looks. I also paired that with a bunch of those little like moon motifs basically everywhere. I really like how her headpiece came out. There's something very like Grecian but also celestial about it that I think really works with the rest of this design. And that little design element also carried over into the like pommel of the axe. I don't know the technical name for that. And then she also has some like basically moon stirrups on her boots. Enemies beware for sure. In terms of colors, I once again struggled a little bit just because I have such a tendency to try to make things more intense and more saturated. And whenever I was first sort of applying the palette, which I did mostly color pick, things were just looking really muted. So while I did keep very close to the reference for the most part, I did try to warm up some of the colors and I made the contrast more intense in some areas. I definitely added a lot more pink, which I think works a lot better for the design. The pinks in the image are more subtle, but because there's so little saturation, they appear a little bit more vibrant. I think in the end, tweaking some of the saturation and the contrast for my design worked a lot because the really bright areas, I think, work well to guide the eye around the design. And I also really love the whole like monochromatic, strict color palette look. It is very satisfying. Quick history lesson before we're done, just because I think that this is a cool artifact. But the Mountaineer's axe that's the inspiration for my axe in the illustration is an actual artifact. It is a ritual monk's axe. It is owned by the Nara National Museum, and they have a bunch of really great photos of the actual axe in their database, along with a description of what it was used for originally in the temple that it came from. So I will have that in the description if anyone would like to go take a look. It's pretty cool. The description from the Nara Museum says that the axe represented virtue, which I think is a nice little thematic tie-in for this light, airy, celestial character. With that, this first little design is done, and we're on to our next one, which is just another fully indulgent, goofy one. This absolutely delightful picture of cats who look like they're in an 80s rock band. I absolutely love these fellas, and I thought that one of them at least needed to be brought to life in the form of a Catboy character. Brace yourselves, we are wandering somewhat into furry territory today, but in the most Disney of contexts. Think Robin Hood, think Redwall. That is as far as we will be going today. So I started out by giving him a cute little Catboy body. I'm trying to keep all of his features as cat-like as possible while also making him be able to stand on two legs and grip a guitar. So his legs are still very ordinarily cat-like, just a little modified for bipedal purposes. He also gets a very fluffy, swooshy tail to aid in his balance. He will probably need it. And to grip his guitar, he has relatively human-looking arms with just regular cat paws at the end of them. Because you know what? It might not be great for holding down a fret, but toe beans are superior to fingers in nearly every way. In terms of clothing, I adorned him with some very similar attire to the reference. He gets a leather jacket and a headband, but I also added just a few more accessories. He's got a red undershirt for a pop of color, some classic fingerless gloves, a red flannel tied around his little kitty waist, and bandages on his legs because, I don't know, it's the 80s. I also thought that he might be able to use some sunglasses to shield his eyes from all of the flash photography and bright lights in the amphitheater. You know, life's a little rough when you're a star. You have to protect your vision. And of course, he got the same electric guitar from the reference, along with a very similar color scheme, mostly pulling the same colors from the cat's fur, along with the black from the leather jacket and a big focus on red as an accent color. By the end, he's looking rather dashing if I do say so myself, and I for one would love to catch his show later. This next one was presented to me in the form of a challenge, and that meant that I simply had to do it. And yeah, it was a little challenging. I mean, what do you really do with that reference? There is basically one obvious avenue to take, and that's the one that I went down, a quote, biblically accurate angel, aka angelic nightmare fuel. Entirely too many eyes, wings everywhere. Does it have a face? I can't see one. In any case, I decided to go for a rather dapper looking angel person. I kind of just started with the wings on the face and went from there, and I also decided that there naturally had to be an eye in the center of the face, which just sort of aimed this in the direction of Pleakley core. It definitely hits that sort of uncanny place where it looks a little goofy, but it's also like, I'm uncomfortable. What am I looking at? Be not afraid? Actually, I am very afraid. We're hitting the vibes on all cylinders here. My direction for this design is basically how many sets of wings and pairs of eyeballs can I place on various areas of this character. There's an available surface, well, there's gonna be an eyeball there now. A limb simply exists? No, it doesn't anymore. There is a wing there now. I couldn't fit as many sets of wings in as there are actually in the reference photo. I kind of tried sort of failed, but I feel like I compensated for that with a couple of extra eyeballs. But I do really kind of like the silhouette that wings coming from the head, wings coming from the arms, wings coming from the feet sort of set for me. It really ended up giving me room to let the outfit stand out, which I really ended up liking in the end. I ended up going for that sort of dapper, old world tailoring look where it's sort of a suit, sort of not a suit, and blended both like masculine elements like a vest and some slacks with more feminine elements like poofy sleeves and this like weird corseted hip belt. I just really like the ambiguity in this design. A lot of my taste for very tailored sort of suity garments lies in like the Victorian period, and in that time in like the, you know, later 19th century, prominent hips were actually kind of considered a more masculine trait, which I found to be interesting. And slightly poofed sleeves were also seen on men's garments, although not to this extent. So kind of a tangent, I've been listening to the Dressed podcast a lot, so little bits like this are bound to sneak into my videos. But that being said, I think it adds even more to the ambiguity of the design. So in terms of colors, I tried to keep to the reference, but also put a little bit of my own spin on it just because the reference was looking very gray and I wanted to go in a slightly more blue direction. I think it just made more sense for this character's design. So I gave them a palette of basically sort of deeper blues, baby blues, whites, and then also this like sickly flesh color around the eyeballs because of the way the eyes are bloodshot in the reference. I tried to keep the design mostly like white and pale blue, but I did use that darker blue in a couple of areas just to add a little bit more visual contrast. And a couple of fun little details that I added in: an eye bolo tie with two little feathers coming off of it, the banister of the staircase in the reference being reflected in the heel of the shoes, and then also a little cloud pattern on the waistcoat. Overall, this one was really fun. It's another one that I wouldn't probably draw normally, but it definitely got me out of my comfort zone, and it was really fun to think of little details that could parallel the reference while still feeling fresh for this design. Alright, we are coming out of a slightly serious character design and into one that is fully just silly, goofy. Someone sent this in, so I am exercising my right to neglect serious character design efforts in favor of this adorable sleepy shark. While this one is silly, I am trying to sort of characterize him, put in the effort with the shape language, and turn him into a clearly readable character. Who is he? He's a shark. What is he? This boy is tired. He wants to go to bed. Sleepy shark needs to be immediately readable upon first glance. So I started off with some horrible tired posture, not unlike mine while recording this voiceover. And I did cheat a tad bit on my whole I don't look up references policy because I don't know how to draw a shark off the top of my head, and I also wanted to figure out how people draw like stylized sharks. People tend to draw them like very muscular and buff with like more of a small head and big old beefy shoulders, so I tried to do sort of the opposite with mine and give him a big head and tiny little legs. Almost like if you poked him, he would just topple over and immediately fall asleep. And if that wasn't enough to tell you that this is a tired little shark boy, I also gave him a little glazed over look in his eye, a crooked smile, a bit of a soft blubbery jawline. He's very huggable and squishable, not unlike the plush that he's based on. And to take all of that a step further, I completely adorned him in a virtual feast of sleep paraphernalia. He's got the blanket, he's got the reading materials, he's got a pillow, the night hat, the bunny slippers, a cup of sleepy time tea, it's all there. And for his PJs, he's got some nice little boxers with an ocean pattern on the bottom, and a cozy button-up nightshirt with a pattern that is based on the bedspread from the reference. I tried to pull a lot of colors from the reference, but I also tried to bring in some blues and some other like accent colors. Some reds and pinks. The colors in this are a lot milder than what I'm used to in my designs, so I had to embellish in some way. But anyways, with that, he's done. I think that he is absolutely adorable. He is, I dare say, friend-shaped. This next one ended up being pretty off the rails, but also pretty much exactly what you would expect from me. Anyways, the reference is really cool. It's this cup of tea and someone has edited ducks into it, just floating around, having a good old time. I love the colors in this one, so I knew that I had to give it a try, but finding a sort of premise or archetype was a little bit challenging. That was until I just said, let me draw a Victorian duck lady. Is this simply an excuse for me to draw a Victorian gown and some cute ducks? Absolutely it is. But by golly, it turned out wholesome. Okay, loose backstory for this character, and stay with me. She is a duck activist. Or I guess more broadly, a bird activist. But like an old-timey alternate universe London. My only real justification for this is I thought it would be cute if she had this like weird close relationship with her duck pets. She would just like bring them everywhere with her. And she, like any bird lover, would be outraged by the mass genociding of birds that took place for the millinery trade. You might be wondering, how does this whole tea theme fit in? Well, I don't know. You know, every British lady likes tea. I guess my very theoretical explanation is that this character got into the millinery trade herself, but she's trying to make hats that like don't kill birds. So she makes like unconventional designs and puts oversized cups of tea on her head. She substitutes fabric feathers for real feathers, and she's like, fabric feathers can be just as pretty, you don't have to kill the birds. Very thought out backstory, right? But I think that it made for a cute, endearing design. So the dress itself is based very closely on a fashion plate, I believe from 1880. I took a lot of elements from that and adapted it to be both more tea-like and more duck-like. I included all the rich purples from the actual cup of tea in the reference, but then also mixed that in with the rich greens in the neck of a mallard. I also tried to reflect the belly of a duck on her bodice, and tried to bring the whole design together by adding the pattern from the teacup and the plate onto various areas of the dress. I added that motif basically everywhere, which I think really brought the dress together. And I, of course, gave her the 3 ducks from the reference, standing next to her on the ground. They also got some bows to go along with Victorian sensibilities, and for good measure, I also added some baby ducks, one hanging out in her hat, almost like a little bird bath, and one on her shoulder. This whole design and concept is just, it's a deep cut, and it's very eccentric, but I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's really cute. And last but not least, mostly because I added this one in last minute, just so I could have 6 designs, and I also saw this image and I was like, yeah, actually, I have a cool idea for that. We have a cute little steampunk cat sculpture. I think this is so adorable. And I thought to go along with it, it needed a cute steampunk cat man. Now you might be thinking, 2 cat boys in 1 video? This is my lucky day. Well, don't get too excited yet, because this is just a human man wearing a cool mask. And since the reference is made completely out of like little intricate gears and metal pieces, I wanted this character to be very mysterious. There's something very machine about him, even though there's a human being under there. So I didn't want any exposed skin, just to maintain that air of mystery. Like, he is human shaped, but I don't know, maybe there's a cyborg in there. Who's to say? So the premise for this was basically that I just wanted to design a cool cat gas mask. I had been looking at pictures of cool plague masks on Pinterest the other day, and I went, aha, I would like to draw another cat boy. Naturally, the whole steampunk aesthetic really goes with the gear theme and also gas masks. I mean, these 2 ideas were meant to be together. So for the mask, I tried to follow the face of the cat in the sculpture pretty closely. I can't see the whole face of the cat, obviously, so I took liberties in a couple of places, but I did try to take that general structure and blend it in with the design of a gas mask. For the rest of the design, I think I went for a pretty classic steampunk look. A coat with flared tails, poofy pants, poofy undershirt, and boots and bracers with just an abundance of belts. And to accent that, I tried to bring a lot of gear and machinery motifs into the actual textiles. Most prominently, huge gears on his shoulders, but then also little stitched gears lining the sides of his coat, along with some little cat designs at the bottom of the tail. And speaking of tails, to match the tail in the reference image, I also gave him a little flexible Doc Ock style tail, and I'm not sure what purpose that would serve a person. I don't know, maybe it's like an actual Doc Ock style tail where he can control it and like grip onto things with it. That might actually be sort of like a useful thing to have. You almost fall over? Well, you have a tail to catch you. Someone's attacking you from behind? You can just hit them with your tail. And speaking of attacks and defense, I also gave him a little staff there that I would imagine also has a sword inside of it. I love a good cane sword. I think that every dapper gentleman should have one. And our cat boy is no exception. The head of the staff is also a cat. naturally. In terms of color, I once again basically pulled directly from the reference image, although I did add some deeper and darker browns, just to add a little bit more contrast. But the majority of the colors are grays, golds, silvers, with the occasional pop of that rich green, which I made more of a saturated toxic green for my illustration. I use those especially in the mask and around the eyes just to sell that sort of like techie look to the mask, but also to add some richness and expense to his clothing, especially that little ascot around his his neck. And now that he's done, I actually think that he looks super cool. This was a really fun one. And with that, all 6 of the designs I'm doing today are done. I really like how they came out, if I do say so myself. Once again, I had so much fun doing this week. I am admittedly maybe a little bit more art blocked than I even was the first week that I tried this. Not so much in terms of ideas, but like I've been doing so much making physical objects that my drawing skills have been suffering a little bit here. But that's why this is such a good exercise for that. It really gets me back into the swing of things and certainly gets me out of my comfort zone. And speaking of being out of my comfort zone, I'm sorry if the voiceover seemed really all over the place today. I did do this unscripted, and I normally script at least a little bit of my voiceovers to kind of keep myself on topic, but I'm sort of working on multiple pieces of content in the pipeline right now, so didn't really have time for that this week. So if I sound tired and disorganized, that is why. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, feel free to speculate wildly about backstories and names and all that good jazz in the comments down below. I love to read that sort of thing, and I will be back very soon with another one of these videos. I already have one sort of filmed and in the works. Just a blanket statement. Thank you all so much for participating in this, even if I didn't get to your message or even if I don't use it to design a character. I appreciate the effort that everyone goes to like look up images and then go to the trouble of sending them to me. It's really nice of you guys. It's just been really cool to include you guys in the process and like use your brains as my inspiration. I want to do more stuff like this. It's been a blast. So thank you for your participation as well. But the biggest, loudest thank you goes to my voluptuous patrons, especially my executive producers. The Cat's Bark, Alwyn Hayes, Thea Maia, Ruled by Pluto, Agent Sketchy, Wolven_Arts, Corvid Dome, Lovisa, Eloquent Silence, In the Galaxy, Cleos, Meeks Hunter, Megan Penland, Sushi McNushi, Satoni, Mel W, Jim Jiminy, India Gloom, Hypnos, Refmlings, Katie, Michael Twycross, Sweet Winter Garden, Gravity Drop, Panda Pie 365, Bobo McFo, Will Schmidt, and Bean the Bread. If you would like to become a patron and gain access to exclusive behind-the-scenes content on my videos, the link will be in the description. You're in your room at night, you're sleeping, you're like, oh wow, it's just so nice and restful, and then you kind of stir and you wake up a little bit, you look over to the corner of your room, your eyes focus, and there it is. A pile of owls.